Good day everyone. Welcome to chapter 5, exception handling. In this chapter, you will learn Python's mechanism to handle and raise exceptions. And we are also going to apply exception handling in our program. So, before applying this, let us first define what are these exceptions and errors. Exceptions occur when unusual situations occur in your program. Actually, programmers, whether they are creating small or big programs, experience errors. And of course, these errors are undesirable events. In Python, these unusual situations or errors are called exceptions. And when an error or exception occurs, of course, the program will stop and generate a message. Okay, now Python has a list of standard exceptions. There are many actually. Some may not be encountered throughout the whole course of writing codes, but there are some commonly encountered exceptions, and the good thing, Python has a way to handle this. Okay, let me try to show you what's happening if there is or there are exceptions. Usually, we are typing our codes, okay, as solution to problems. So we have set of statements. Let's say I want to print sum, or let's say I have A is equals to 10, B is equals to 5. Then I have here print A plus B. Okay? When you look at the codes normally, you will be thinking nothing is wrong with the code. So when you run the program, Python will give you an exception. And there is a specific exception given. Syntax error. A is equals to 10, B is equals to 5. Can't assign to literal. Because this is not the way to write your variable declaration in Python. So you can change this, put it there. Let's try again. This is one error, syntax error. When I run this, okay, Python will again display a message. A plus B, name B is not defined. Okay, so the program will terminate or it will stop once there is an error in your program. So the expected output cannot be displayed. Here, B is not defined. So when you correct this one, of course, okay, so this is the normal termination of your program. When you want your output, when you want the expected output displayed on your screen. Now, how are those exceptions going to be handled? I have shown you types of two types or kinds of exception. That is the syntax error and the uh, name error. Okay, there are other kinds of error that we can get from here. Let's say I make it a 0. Okay, and so we have divide this A, divide B. You see, this is now called a 0 division error because of course you cannot divide a number by 0. What else? You can also have, okay, and make it a string, a type error. So you see, these are only some of the common types of exceptions that you will encounter in your programming journey. Okay, now, how are we going to handle this? Let me go back. Python has a way to handle exceptions using the try except statement. So what are you going to do? You have to write all your statements that might raise exception inside the try block. So it's actually a partner, try except. All the normal codes that you think might raise exception, you have to put it inside the try. Okay? And what to put in the except clause? In the except clause, you need to write your handlers. It can be any appropriate message to the user. What is the kind of error or what's happening with the program if that exception is encountered? Okay? Now, this except clause can handle a single specified error or a parenthesized list of errors. So you can have a single specified error handled, or you can list multiple exceptions to be handled. Just be specific of what these exceptions are. Okay? You can also include an else clause. And this else clause is executed, if there is no exception occurring in the program. Now, let's go back to our program. Okay, now here, I know that I got a type error exception. So what will I do? I will type try, and then the format, all the code should be indented. Okay? So the codes that you think might raise an exception should be put inside the try. And then, the general way to handle the exception is to type the except. You are not specific to any exception. So it means any exception will be handled by this handler, except. So print, there is an error. Okay, so what will happen if I run this program? You see, those messages displayed before, the long messages were gone, and instead, that statement under the except will be executed. There is an error. Where is that error? Definitely in that line of codes that you have written under the try statement. Okay, so this is an example of try except. Now, an else can be written, and an else is executed if there is no exception. Okay? An else is executed if there is no exception. So here, program ran successfully. Okay? So when I run this program, of course, this will not be printed because there is an error. Again, this else will only run if there is no exception. Let's try to correct the error now. Let's say I'll make it a 5. 10 and 5 will, okay, do a successful operation with A divide B. So when I run the program, okay, A divide B is 2.0 and your else is executed now. Take note, of course, since there is no exception, your except is not printed. So that is the meaning of try, except, else. Handling of exception. Now, this except is handling exception in general. Whatever exception it is, be it syntax error, zero division, name error, it will be handled. But if you want to be specific, you can have multiple exception. For example, except, you specify it. Except name error, there is a name error. Okay? So you can have several except specifying what are the errors. Let's say I have syntax error. Syntax. There is a syntax error. Okay, let's say I have a type error. There is a type error. Okay, now let's make the data type again wrong. I'll make it 5. So when I run this program, that specific error will be displayed. Only the type error is displayed. Okay, so that's the advantage of specifying what kind of exceptions do you want to handle. The problem is there's so many lists of standard exceptions in Python. If you will be identifying all, then that will be so many line of codes. Now, of course, if the error is in the syntax, okay, name error is also a problem. So I did not specify a name error. Something is wrong here. Syntax, it's not detected. So this one is B. Okay. So you see, since this is a B, name error will be displayed. So it's up to you if you want to specify all the exceptions or you just want to use a general except clause, the one that will handle all your exceptions. Now, you can also write finally. Okay? So finally is executed whether there is no exceptions or not. Okay? So print end of program. Okay? This program has an exception, but still that statement under the finally will be executed. Okay? So there is a name error and a program. Let me correct it. Now, 2.0 program runs successfully and the program. Take note, all the statements under the except will only be executed if there is an exception. The else will be executed if there is no exception. And finally, will be executed whether there is exception or not. Okay, so take note of that thing. So you know how the program will flow given this try except else finally structure.